Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to, we're glad you came this evening. Considering all the bad weather we've had on the way down, it was raining like crazy, but it was staying north of me all the way down, so lightning stayed in Cincinnati for a change, and we didn't get it this time. Tonight we're going to have a talk on Camp Sunshine, and we'll have a business meeting afterwards. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Keith Daniels.
Thank you, Ken. My name's Keith Daniels, and I'd like to introduce Butch Schultz, our treasurer, and Rick Parker, our vice president. We're kind of the three people that are left after Camp Sunshine closed and the property was sold to the Mentor Baptist Church in 2003. So Butch was gathering up a box of goodies that I told Ken that was going to be his to take to the Historical Society after tonight. But there's a lot of interesting stuff here with old pictures and articles and history. The founding of Camp Sunshine was back in 1928, and I know quite a few people in this room know a little bit about Camp Sunshine, but it was started as a camp for underprivileged children from the Newport, Dayton, and Bellevue area. And it continued until 2002. Right. 2002. And it was just, it was pretty evident to the board members at the time that the children just weren't as interested in coming to Mentor, Kentucky from Dayton, Kentucky, or Newport, Kentucky, or Bellevue, Kentucky. It wasn't that big of a deal anymore. I can remember when it was a big deal to come out Route 8. It felt like you were going on vacation to Knoxville or someplace. You know. And times became much tougher for us to find young adults and people who wanted to work for 6, 8, 12 weeks. I mean, that staffing was a big problem, but the lack of children needed to be more entertained, and we had kind of lost that capability of being able to do that. But when I thought of that, when Ken called to invite me to me and the board members to come to talk, you know, the hundreds of thousands of hours of donated labor that kept Camp Sunshine very viable for all those years is just amazing. I think of Chris and Lorraine Seafried, Janet's parents, who every year went out there to help open up the camp. I mean, there were 60, 70 couples that would go out at a time just to cut grass, clean, get it ready. Brooks and Jane Schwalberg, the couple that owned Kraus Awning, for years until they were in their 70s. You know, I mean, they just were amazing how many hours they donated. So there was just a lot of neat stuff. We do have a compiled history that one of our former camp directors compiled that we're donating, and it's very comprehensive. When Camp Sunshine was started, Mildred Dean was on the board of directors, Fred Urschel Sr., Walter Cook, let's see, some of the other names there were D.W. Snyder, and it was kind of interesting in doing the history of Camp Sunshine. I live in the Beech Grove School, which is directly across from the Camp Sunshine, which is now the Mentor Baptist Church. And then the property surrounding my house is still the Beech Grove Sunday School Celebration Grounds, which was founded in 1870. And prior to the organization buying the property that is now the current day Mentor Baptist Church, Camp Sunshine actually was held on the Beech Grove Sunday School grounds until they bought the property. One of the familiar names of some of the people that sold property was Mary and Raymond Armin, the Armin family, which owned the farm, which is now Flag Springs Golf Course. So right there in that little vicinity of 4 or 5 parcels of land, quite a bit of history going back to 1870. So that's kind of my spiel. Butch, you want to add anything that you can?
Well, I've been associated with Camp Sunshine now for about 25 years. I was recruited by another board member at that time. His name was Bob Adams, and Bob and I had been childhood friends. And anyway, he said that there was a need for help out at this camp. Well, ever since we were children, I knew that he was associated with this camp. You know, since he was a high school student, he was a counselor out there when he was a kid, and I knew that through the years. But then it was like 1989, 1990 when he called me and he said that they really needed some help. And so I went out and took a look, and not really knowing what I was getting into. And what I recognized was a bunch of kids that were less fortunate than many of the kids that I had known, growing up. And I saw a definite need. And what they needed was just help of any kind, cutting grass, fixing plumbing issues, and patching the roof and painting the pool, just anything that I could do, So, I was handy. I know the difference between a hammer and a screwdriver. So, I went out there and, did what I could to help out. And I did that for a few years, and finally I was asked to join the board of directors. And I was on the board of directors for a few years, and then they asked me to be president, So I thought, oh boy, what am I getting into here, But we made a lot of ground, during the 90s, and we made a lot of improvements. We bought a lot of equipment, and we brought some new people on board, and there was a lot of excitement out of Camp Sunshine. But, as Keith said, times have changed, and the society had changed, the world had changed, and it just appeared to me, no matter how hard we worked, it just seemed that maybe the camp had just run its course, and it was still a very nice facility. We had good equipment, we had good people involved, but the kids wanted pizza, they wanted Pepsi, they wanted color television, they wanted to call their friends on the phone, and and all those things. And that's not what Camp Sunshine was all about, I mean, it was meant to be a relief from the lifestyle that we all know. And so we started having trouble bringing counselors out there. A lot of kids were not going into social work anymore, and we had a little bit of a problem recruiting children, to go out there. So we just decided, right around 2000, 2002, that maybe it was time. Maybe it was time to move on, and maybe Camp Sunshine has done its thing. So we sold the property to Menor Baptist Church, and they had preserved a great deal of the buildings that have been out there. I mean, if you were a camper out there many, many years ago, I mean, even many years ago, in the 40s and 50s, there's a very good chance that you'll go out there and you'll see things that you remember, And, I think that's just a wonderful thing that they were able to preserve, some of the buildings and some of the facilities that we had. But anyway, since we sold the property, we've done a lot of good things in the community, and that's why we're still together. That's why we didn't dissolve, because we felt that there was still a lot for us to do. There was still a lot that we could give, and since then we've taken the proceeds from the sale of the organization. Excuse me. We've taken the proceeds from the sale of the property, and we've invested it. And we take the proceeds from those investments and we donate that money to area organizations and charities and so on and so forth, and any place that we find that really has a need. And did you give them some of the examples here? Okay. Well, some of the examples where we have made donations, and we've made donations almost every year to St. John's United Church of Christ Christmas Basket Program. This is where they purchase food and they put these Christmas baskets together, and then they donate these to people in the area that need food for Christmas. And we've given to them for many years. The Behringer Crawford Museum, we made a very nice donation to them here a few years ago. The Dayton Independent Schools, you go to any school in northern Kentucky and you talk to any of the teachers and they'll tell you, we need school supplies. We just don't have the money. And you'll also find out that a number of the teachers in these schools are taking money out of their own pockets and buying crayons and paper and pencils and, you know, everyday things that they need for their classroom, you know. So I knew of some people. I had some acquaintances at Lincoln Elementary School, and we purchased gift cards to Office Depot for all of the school teachers. Was it Staples?
Yes.
Okay, at Staples. And then gave those to all of the teachers at Lincoln Park Elementary, and they were just thrilled, just absolutely thrilled. They were so happy about it that they made us a video. It was so wonderful, you know, seeing all the kids waving and hollering, "Thank you, Camp Sunshine." It was just a great joy. And we've also given money to, we've made donations to the Boys and Girls Club in Newport. The Boys and Girls Club in Newport on 10th Street has a wonderful program, and they have a lot of kids that are actively involved in their programs down there, volunteering their time. So what Camp Sunshine did for these kids, just to recognize them, just to show them how much they are really appreciated, we told these kids that we will pay for the t-shirts. We want you to design it, and we're going to hook you up with a t-shirt printer, and we want you to make your own t-shirts, and we'll pay for them. And they were just ecstatic. So those are just a few of the things that we've done in the last few years, and we hope to continue to do this, you know, for many, many years to come. Camp Sunshine is not going away, you know. I mean, in spirit, you know, we're still here.
Everyone's expecting me to speak rather than just sit here like some bump on the wall.
This is my friend Rick Parker, and Rick and I have known each other since we were children, and I recruited Rick here, I guess about 10, 15 years ago. And
yeah, it was well worth getting involved. I'm a registered nurse. I went out during the camp times, got to do some nursing out there. We had a very special weekend where we had the mentally impaired come in. I think it was through the Knights of Columbus. Jake was the one, and he had about 50 kids. And when I say 50 kids, I'm talking kids meaning anywhere from 15 years old to 50 years old. And yet they were all kids. And so we had those out for a weekend. I was the camp nurse. It was the hardest weekend of my life, but I enjoyed it because now I have 50 kids all on medications in the middle of the summer, and it was hot. And they get all cranked up. They're wanting to dance and have fun. And I was out there going, okay, we need to get some water to these kids. Keep them hosed down because they're going to be dropping like flies here. But it turned out to be a successful weekend. And it was quite an experience for me. I enjoyed it. But I also became a member of the board and served as vice president and Sergeant Martin. No, not Sergeant Martin. But served for a few years. Being the latter of the three coming into the organization, but enjoyed it very much, and I could see the good work that was going down. But as Butch and Keith both said, at some point you see a change where it could be potentially a liability because we were having trouble keeping good staff and ensuring that we had good staff through the month period that we operated. And we knew we got kids' lives at stake and we had to take care of them. So we had to move to that point of dissolving the camp and then going into a foundation mode rather than a camp and funding the programs. Staples was a very good partner with us for that, the Lincoln Elementary School, Dayton Elementary School, because they helped us work out a deal where it was almost like a voucher type system, so they would come and give gift cards that were strictly for school supplies. And that was one way we could ensure that it in fact did go for school supplies and nothing else. So there was no administrative fees or someone trying to divert funds in a certain direction. So we were very grateful for Staples to help manage that program.
So there's, okay, Ken?
Okay, how many people here went to Camp Sunshine?
Oh, that's
Oh,
me.
man.
Okay.
Okay, I was never stepped on the grounds. So what I'd like for you three guys to do for me is describe what's there. What was there? What kind of buildings there? What kind of activities did you do? What size staff did you have? How many kids attended per week? Give me an overview of what went on in Camp Sunshine.
I think I can do that.
Okay, you got that.
Well, first there was registration, and we had to get the word out to all of the kids, throughout Campbell County. Newport, Bellevue, Dayton, Southgate, Alexandria, every place, Highland Heights. And we recruited volunteers, people that we knew through the board and their kids and anybody that had a pulse. And we asked them to hand out posters and flyers, throughout Campbell County, and go to all the schools and businesses and anybody that would tape it up in their window. I mean, so anyway, that's how the word got out. And this poster would identify a location where the kids would go to register. And so the kids would show up on these particular dates, with their parents and legal guardians and so on, and we would sign them up. And we
never charged through the whole duration of Camp Sunshine. It was never a charge higher than $15 per camper.
That's right. We never charged more than $15.
And if the individual could not afford the $15, we self-funded that.
We took them anyway,
Yep.
And so we had an arrangement with the Newport Independent Schools with their buses to bus the kids out there on a particular day. And they would show up on Monday morning about 11 o'clock. And the first thing they would do is unload all of their stuff. And of course, there's just a ton of excitement. These kids are just ecstatic to be out there. And it was usually about 56 kids. And we had about 8 counselors, and we had a director and an assistant director. And a cook, right. And the kids would arrive at 11 o'clock, and they would drop off their stuff, and the first thing we do is feed them. And then after they eat, then the programs would begin. And we would have swimming, and we would have arts and crafts, and we would have hiking and basketball, and just a lot of wonderful interactions, a lot of things for them to do. And we kept them busy all day long. And I can assure you, when the lights went out at night, they were sound asleep. And we had, at night, we had our campfire, and it was a wonderful setting for the campfire because, of course, there were no city lights out there at all, So we had this huge bonfire, and we would tell these stories. And I'm sure that some of the former campers can remember. What do you remember? You remember Headless Hattie?
Yes, I do. Matter of fact, we rode out to this past weekend to see it, and what a wonderful thing to go to that camp. And when we drove in, they still have the little place there where they have the fire. And I told him they used to take us on the hike, and then there was a building over there, and there was a red house or something, and they would claim that that's where she came from. So wonderful. Very good stories there. You guys did keep us busy.
Camp was closed for one season, and it was the summer of 1944 because of World War II.
Really?
Yeah, when I went through the history, it was closed for 1 year only, and that was because of rationing, short supplies and stuff like that.
How many months did you guys, how many months did you run it?
We ran at one time almost 12 weeks.
12 weeks?
Yeah, at one time, camp ran for almost 12 weeks.
What happened to the cabins?
Believe it or not, they sold them.
I want one.
To the community. If you drive across Ivor Road
Yeah.
from the AA over to Route 8, if you'll look on your left, once you pass the Shop Quick Market or the Marathon station there, if you look back, there's a cabin that a couple bought. So, but because the cabins were starting to be built in the 30s, and most of the cabins that were sold, all the cabins that were sold, I mean, they were still in great shape. I mean, they weren't rotted, they weren't termited or anything like that.
I told Mike the dinner bell's still out there.
The dinner bell is
It's
still
still
on the,
there.
and that's the Mentor Baptist Youth House, which has been winterized, so they can use it year round. But the dinner bell is still there. Yes, it
In front of
is.
the mess hall.
In front of the mess hall.
That was the mess hall, and the guidance, or the camp director's place is still there.
That cabin is still there,
And
that is
then,
correct.
yeah.
The swimming pool was filled in because prior to the swimming pool being built, they would hike to the Ohio River and swim.
Sure did.
Yeah. Down Smith Road.
Every day, walk down to the Ohio River and swim.
We had to pull Mike.
You're soft.
Yeah. We had
Which
to
is
pull.
amazing when you think about it. I mean, no life jackets, I mean, you know, so. But trying to estimate how many people attended Camp Sunshine is a good question, Ken. It has to be,
It's got to be in the thousands.
oh my, it's got to be probably in the 20,000s
Oh, yeah.
when you think about the number of years. So, and then, I mean, you know, St. John's United Church of Christ at Park Avenue, Nelson Place, they had their camp every year for how many years, Janet? 30?
What do you think of?
Probably. Yeah, long time. And they would have, at the end of the Camp Sunshine season, they would have up to a 2-week church camp. So, and then the camp would be used right until probably, you know, the 1st of October for the weekends and stuff by different people. And then that's when we would winterize it and shut it down for the winter. Yes, ma'am.
Whose idea was it? Did it start as a church camp, or how did this get started from the beginning?
Let me take just a minute. I mean, but if I get too windy, just tell
No,
me to shut up.
keep on, you're,
Okay.
you're fine.
Camp Sunshine began as the Campbell County Camp for Underprivileged Children. The year of its founding is somewhat questionable, but we think it was probably in 1928. Popular sentiment among senior board members puts the date at 1928, the accepted date of camp's founding for some time now. In contrast, several articles in many newspapers about camp put it at 1938 as its founding between 1931 to 1938. One newspaper article from 1937 reported the camp started in 1930. I think that the most convincing evidence of the correct date of camp's founding is to be found in our own brochures from 1939 and 1940. And Butch has brought all those that we want the Historical Society to take good care of for us. Both brochures put the date of camp's founding in 1930. As they were produced by these closest to camp within a decade of when they were stating camp was founded, we feel that 1930 is probably the most accurate date. D.W. Snyder was the real sponsor and enthusiast for a camp for underprivileged children. In its earliest days, the camp was jointly sponsored by the Campbell County Relief Committee and the Campbell County Sunday School Association with help from the Campbell County Youth Council, a department of the Campbell County Sunday School Association. The Campbell County Sunday School Association, which is still known as the Beach Grove Celebration, which was founded in 1870. Camp's original location was where the present-day Beach Grove Sunday School Celebration grounds are on Smith Road in Mentor, Kentucky. This is across the road from what is now Mentor Baptist Church. We still don't know why it was moved across the other side of Smith Road, but perhaps the new location was Camp Sunshine, which was currently camp's new present location until we sold it. It was just better suited for a children's summer camp because there was more property and stuff. It goes on to say that we found a reference that the Campbell County Sunday School Association was making a payment on a debt from 1933 concerning Mr. Arman and the right-of-way and the building of an access road by a fellow by the name of Mr. Watson. So we believe in 1933 formal agreements were made for the purchase of the main camp area and the right-of-way, and that the deeds to these two parcels were recorded later, perhaps after payment could be guaranteed. So that's kind of a little bit of history, and this whole history is going to be donated to you all tonight as well. But like I said, it goes on, and we talk about some of the other early board members were, of course, Mildred Dean, Frank Dowd, Fred A. Urschel, William Houck, Reuben Cook, Walter Cook, Harry Ludicky, Ruth Meyer, Lynn Miller, Ruth Miller, Lucille Recal, Walter Schultz, D.W. Snyder, William Warnicke, C.F. Welsh, George Werpup, Eugene E. Williams, and Dr. John A. Winkler. So those are some of the early names of people who helped form Sunshine. After the end of World War II brought many changes. A 7th camper's cabin was added. Camp saw its first hot water showers in 1951. All the years before that, they were all cold. The present-day cook's cabin was the new director's cabin in 1952. Until the present day's director's cabin was built, the cook and female junior counselors used cabin number 12. On April 15, 1954, we added 1.24 acres, was purchased from Luke and Louise Robinson in anticipation of building a new concrete swimming pool. The blockhouse arts and crafts building was built sometime between 53 and 54, and in 1956 the director and cook each made $400 for the summer. The assistant director made $200, while senior counselors made $125 and junior counselors made $65. In 1956, the new swimming pool was in use but had to be drained and filled 4 times after becoming cloudy for lack of a filtration system. Why you would build a pool and not have a filtration system? But they had, in one of these binders, there's a picture of the drilling truck that they brought in to drill the well. And I mean, the well casing was huge. I mean, what was it, Butch? 4 feet in circumference?
Oh, yeah, easy.
You know, and we never ran out of water. I mean, the only time we ran out of water was when the pump quit working, and you had to have a Marvin Record kind of guy there to fix the darn thing. So, but that, I mean, to think that they drained and filled the pool because there was no filtration system on it. I'm trying to see if there's any other thing here. The basketball court was poured in July of 1965, and the present-day director's cabin was completed in July of 66. If campers took their showers, they were given a token by the counselor on shower duty. They would take this token down to the mess hall where a counselor had set up a store, and with this token, campers could purchase 1 small Coca-Cola and a candy bar from their choice for taking their shower. And at the time, God rest his soul, people remember Roland Voorhees working at Coca-Cola for I forget how many years. Yeah, I mean, yeah. And Coca-Cola was always donated, you know, those little bottles of Coca-Cola. I think of Roland when I think of that, though. Let's see here. Hiking was the bulk of camp's nature program in 1969. We used to hike on Mr. Armin's dairy farm before it became the Flag Springs Golf Course. The ladder crossed a barbed wire fence above the present-day chapel. There were 2 attractions to hike on the farm. The first was an old 2-story log cabin that we told the campers was Headless Hattie's house. This house was lost to arson in the late 70s. Beyond Hattie's house was Indian Hill. This was a wooded hill with large oak trees and a thick floor of leaves where campers loved to go find box turtles. A third destination was reached by way of Mr. Armin's farm. This trail led into another farm where a large pond awaited campers in search of frogs. A ridge above this pond provided a spectacular view of the Ohio River. Most of camp hiked up there one evening and slept out overnight on newspaper. The next morning we woke up wringing wet with dew. Another hike was to a bridge on Washington Trace Road to catch crawdads. We also hiked to the Ohio River at Mentor. A favorite hike was to the cemetery at Flag Springs Baptist Church. There, just beyond the wall that marks that which is not part of the cemetery, is this tombstone of one who was too hideous to be buried with the decent people, Headless Hattie. So we did have a tragedy at camp, July 10th, 1984. We lost a camper by the name of David Cook. We had taken the kids hiking, I remember the day, and the kids were never told to be on top of the tombstones and so forth. And David had climbed on top of the one that was like a 250, 275 pound, what they call a Marvin obelisk.
Yeah, an obelisk.
And it was just, I mean, it had deteriorated and it fell on him. So I remember attending the funeral. And, you know, this was 1984, and I mean, you know, There's ambulance chasers of all kinds at any time, but the mother had been to Camp Sunshine. Several of her children had been to Camp Sunshine. And when several lawyers had contacted her to sue Camp Sunshine, she said, there's no way I could ever sue Camp Sunshine. Our insurance carrier was Lou Crawford at the time, and of course we had insurance and stuff, and the family was taken care of that way. But she had, as a mother, she had attended there. So does that kind of help? Yes, ma'am.
Other groups that attended, I know I volunteered when my daughter was a Girl Scout.
Girl Scouts. We used to rent the camp to Girl Scouts. Actually, a lot of times we would donate the camp to it. Girl Scouts, let's see, the leader at the time, refresh my memory.
Oh, I only know that Ruth Freeze was doing the
Ruth,
cooking.
okay, I remember that name, right. But the Girl Scouts would use it. We had a couple band camps that used it a few summers. Several families within the community would use it for family reunions.
Also, Sister Janet from Covington.
Janet Dupier.
She brought
Our Savior Church.
Our
Our Savior
Savior
Church, she brought the kids from Covington over, so
Now, she's
the
a
Kent County kids got to enjoy some
Yes.
of the Campbell County life.
What age group of children were you targeting?
It was
8 to 12.
8 to 12, yeah, 8 to 12.
And you talked about cabin 6 and cabin 12. How many buildings were on the ground?
I guess.
Well, there were 8 cabins and 7 campers in each cabin, so 7 eighths is 56. We had 56
Average, yeah.
56 kids out there, and each cabin had a counselor in it.
But then there was the director's cabin, the assistant director's cabin, there was the cook's cabin,
Right.
there was the mess hall.
So there was altogether about anywhere from 60 to 65 people out there at any given time.
And there were 2 sessions.
Um,
How many sessions? There was more
Well,
than one
there,
session.
at one time we ran, I think, for up to 12 weeks, and then it seemed like it kept getting less and less. And so our last full season of camp, we had 6 sessions?
We had 4 sessions.
4 sessions, okay.
Right. Now, when he speaks of a session, he means from Monday morning until Saturday morning.
Yeah.
So
That would be my next question. How long did it run?
they were there for 5 nights.
And some campers, if they were extremely good campers, would get picked to come back for a second week.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, and a lot of them were picked as junior counselors.
So one of the things that is I don't know if you, but this is an old box truck with a rack around it, and it says, "This truck for rent." And this was how we used to transport some of the campers before we would use the bus system. Green Line buses at one time started to bring tank buses, and then we started with the Newport, but they would put the children in an open truck and come out Route 8.
There was, we said that every camper, was $15, but I think what we calculated, we spent probably $125
Right.
a kid. So they got it for 15.
So did you have an endowment, or where did your money come from?
Donations, mainly.
Churches, private individuals,
Private individuals.
anybody that was willing to donate.
And it was a shoestring budget that we operated under.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But we
And
managed-
volunteer help. I mean, the board members and all the folks that would just donate hours upon hours of time. I mean, that's, the Kentucky Colonels there for the last there for almost 15 years. They were they were very benevolent. I mean, we would write a grant. They bought our John Deere lawn tractor. They paid for upgraded refrigeration. They paid for quite a few things. So the Kentucky Colonels was an organization.
We had T-shirts that we would wear that said Camp Sunshine, and I would be down at Newport in some business, and somebody 30 years old would walk up to me and say, "Hey, I went there." So it was well known throughout Campbell County, Camp Sunshine. So we would put out cans,
Yes, that's right.
where people could just drop money in different businesses. So if you went to a grocery store, you might see a can on the counter when you're checking out, and people put the money in. So the money flew.
So one of the things that's in the box here is the annual children's camp report that was published every year. So we take a look at receipts. We had donations of cash of this was 1939. The 1939 season ran from June the 19th, 1939 to August the 12th, 1939. The cash donations were $2,443.96. Equipment was $145, material and labor $1,110.62, and food $29.85 for a total receipts of $3,729.43. The expenditures were food and milk $781.61, salaries of $389, other expenses of $319.51, new cabins and kitchen $1,338.35, equipment of $607.77, and it says here special notes for 1937, which was note payments. That's what they used to call mortgages or payables. Notes due from 1937 were $236.20. So the officers in 1939 were George Workpup, Mr. E.E. Williams from Bellevue, Kentucky, Mr. D.W. Snyder from Fort Thomas, Mr. Edward Storn from Southgate, Miss Eleanor Estes from Newport, Miss Marguerite Goodfried from Newport, and Mr. Walter Cook from Newport. The chairman of the Camp Finance Committee at the time was Ed Storn. The Camp Committee chairman was D.W. Snyder, and the trustees chairman was Reuben Cook. So these are interesting to read. You know.
You have a question over there?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Did all three of you attend the camp as youth, or any of you?
I did not.
I grew up in the house across from Camp Sunshine. My parents bought that place in 1948. Having grown up across from camp, never attended, but I learned to swim there. I learned to, did I spend a lot of my summers there? Yes, I did. But was I ever officially a camper? No. But boy, did I spend the hours there, yes.
I was raised on Elm Street in Newport, and we were poor, but I didn't know it. So the other kids that were there got to go to Camp Sunshine. And when they came back, they talked about Headless Hattie living in a tree on Patterson Avenue, Patterson Street. And we used to get scared when we went around Elm to Patterson. We'd run past that tree.
I can believe that story. Yeah. Butch made mention to or Rick, one of the two, were talking about the campfires. And the campfires, I went to many of them. And I mean, you know, they would get to tell, and I mean, the true meaning of a campfire and a good story with a little bit of Headless Hattie thrown into it, you had people holding on to one another to get back to their camp as quick as they possibly could, because it was, you know, you were frightened to death.
Of course, we also had a few plants out around,
Yeah.
outside the fire that they didn't know about, making a little noise here and there.
That kind of
Set the mood.
One of the things in the history that I read, does anybody remember what a tick was?
Yeah, we used to stop them with straw.
Exactly. They talk about it, because we never had mattresses for years, and it was the old tick, and they would stuff them full of straw, and at the end of the season, we'd unstuff them. So,
A lot of snipe hunts, too.
and snipe
In the
that's right.
cemetery.
Yeah.
Keith,
Yes,
you didn't mention when you had 50-some kids there was only that one bathroom.
that's
down
right,
there
at
behind
one
the
time,
kitchen.
yes. Mhm. Yeah,
Until
behind
many
it.
years later.
Right, many years later, right. So,
If you had a well and you had plenty of water and you refilled the pool, I can only imagine how warm that water was.
that water was
wasn't.
very light.
Well water tends to be in the low 50s, so I mean, it would take quite a while for that to warm up.
I can remember, you know, some of the activities at the pool would be to grease a watermelon, you know, with Vaseline or Crisco and throw it in and see who could get it out of the pool. And that was quite an adventure to try to get a greased watermelon out of the pool. You know, any other questions or comments? I know you all have a business meeting to attend to, but we just really want to thank you for the opportunity and the invite. It's like I told Ken, I said when Butch and I were pulling together stuff, We said, you know, we need to give this to somebody so that when we're dead and gone, it doesn't get put in Rumpke, because there's wonderful pictures in here, reports and stuff, so we trust it with your great safekeeping.
I think you need a round of applause for all the great work you've done. All right, we're going to go ahead and have our business meeting at this time. Mike's busy. Are you ready, Mike?
Yep.
Okay, Mike, to give us the treasurer's report.
Treasurer's report, at the beginning of the month, we had $12,959.13. We had income of $1,947.80. Our expenses were $1,246.97, which gives us an ending balance of $13,659.99.
Okay, membership?
Membership, we have 4 business members, 31 life, 196 members for a total of 231.
Okay, very good.
It's real good for this time of the year.
Yes, it really is. Jan, you want to give us last month's report?
Last month, we had 43 people in attendance, and President Ken Reese called the meeting to order and invited Jim Benton to conduct his talk on Mary Ingalls and Big Bone Lick. Mr. Benton was originally from Floyd, Virginia, where the story of Mary Ingalls is famous. Mr. Benton decided to recreate her trip via canoe down the river. He traveled along the Little River in Floyd, Virginia, to the New River and then to the New River Gorge. And he talked about the locks and dams and how interesting that process was. And he also talked about Big Bone and its importance as a salt lick. Correspondence and emails, Jan Lester reported that the Kentucky Historical Society is having second Saturday events, including topics on migration. And Jan reported that the descendants of James Taylor were trying to revive the Taylor Association. There being no further business, Ken adjourned the meeting and wished everyone a safe trip home.
Thank you very much. Okay, now we're going to start with reports, gifts and donations. Do you have anything you want to report on?
For gifts and donations, what I got so far, Stan Bradbury donated a World War II naval uniform. He donated 2 photographs, one from Newport Courthouse about 1883, and one photo of the old 4th Street School, which I estimated to have been probably about 1920. It's not the current school that's there now. It was in the same location. And then also we got, I don't know if I reported last month or not, Pam Pangborn donated a wedding dress circa 1960, and we got 5 photo boxes from Ken Reese.
Okay, very good. Jan, did you report on Richard? Did you talk to Richard? How's he doing?
He's doing really well, and he is going to contact Janine Kreinbrink about the 25th anniversary celebration. He's going to try to talk to her on Sunday and see about having her come and do a presentation on the Benz site and some of the Native American artifacts. So.
Okay. For those who don't know, Richard was one of our board members. He had a very serious heart operation. How long ago was that now? About 2 months?
Yes, and they are talking about possibly a pacemaker.
Pacemaker, yeah. So he's getting better though. So hopefully we'll have him back soon. Family tree names.
Family tree names in FP5, we got 257,192. And in the 2012, we got 40,025 for a total of 297,217 names. Number of records, we got 2,929,446. And I hope to finish up the year with 3 million records in the database. So I'm working now on filling in all the blanks that we had. Well, not only me, but Janet and a bunch of other people are working on it, on getting the information.
Okay, very good. Anything new on cemeteries, Marvin?
Well,
we still have a lot of loose ends, and we're still finding new cemeteries out there. And the Pendleton County group and Buck and I are kind of trading information. But I'd like to ask Mr. Von Stroh to give a little report on the St. Paul's Cemetery, the beautiful condition it is now.
Well, because of the work from NKU, we were able to, we feel, locate where the graves were, and also by interviewing people who had been in the, walking through the graveyard, playing there, we feel pretty confident that we have at least 5 of the stones in the correct place where they're supposed to be. The one that we feel 100% sure of is our Civil War soldier who died as a result of either from injuries or from illness in a battle down by Fort Anderson, I believe, in the Wilmington area, one of the last battles of the war. He was brought up river on a boat. He was put in the hospital in Covington. He died there in August of 1865, and then he was brought out to our church cemetery. So we have some of the stones that we have, we don't know, we can't read the names on them, they're broken, but we have placed a stone at least by every place where we think a grave is located. It was interesting how they all lined up too, as if, they were, it just worked out nice. So we have, the stones have been repaired. We had the ones that were broken were worked on down at the NK Stone in Newport. And Kenny Ray, longtime member of our church and a resident of Campbell County, and he's related to the Fauces and the Stearns, who are the stones we have. He's done a lot of work. He's doing a little bit more work of building up the stones to, to where they're supposed to be from the cracks and the breaks in them. So it was interesting at Christmas times. We don't know who did it, but somebody put flowers on the graves. We got most of the stones up by Christmas, and somebody had been putting flowers. And since then, somebody else has been putting just flowers from time to time on the stones. Well, I think we were up there Saturday. My son Doug Von Stroh is the archaeologist. He works with Crime Brink. He and I laid out, using the data from NKU, we laid out the 2 locations we believe are the south end of where the church was. And Kenny Ray, we've also discovered on the property, we've discovered a whole lot of cut stones, cut from the 1800s and before. We don't know that they were part of the foundation of the church, but we think they might be. How else did they get there? If they weren't part of the original foundation of the church. So Kenny Ray is going to make a footprint. We're not 100% sure, but we think we know where the church was located on the lot. So he's going to use the stones to build up in a pyramid type of fashion at each corner to form the footprint of the church. And of course, we've also put up a sign. Basically, if you haven't been back there, it says it's a site of St. Paul's Church and Cemetery from 1850.
Well, I have experienced seeing that as it progressed. You guys are to be commended because it is beautiful back there, and when you consider that there were trees as big around as this table almost in every direction, and just the amount of work involved to get rid of that stuff and then to get the stones back where they were, you should be commended. And I thank you personally, and the Historical Society certainly is grateful to your needs or your work. Thank you.
Mark, what about Saddle Ridge?
Well, Saddle Ridge is one of those cans of corn that we might not have ever wanted to get as involved as we are, but where we're at now, we know that the cemetery technically was not moved. The stones were moved, and as a result of that, the city of Alexandria was convinced that it was okay to start building. As it is now, there are some people that want the stones put back. There are some that don't. It's kind of like, we're not legally able to do anything until we get permission from everybody I guess, in the 4 or 5 lots that are involved, to put the stones back. But we found out that we can have possession of them, so rather than leaving them lay up on a hill, we haven't quite decided where we're going to put them, but I think some of the ladies that are property owners are willing to store them on their property, which would probably be where the cemetery is. So at this point, that's kind of where we're at. We're playing it by ear, and you know, unfortunately,
Sound Ridge is for anybody who doesn't know.
it's on Persimmon Grove Pike, and the cemetery designation that we had, according to Russ Stevens, he named it the Vogel Sands Cemetery. But in reality, that was the people that owned the property at the time in 1964 or 5. We've determined that it's really the Dickens Cemetery because there's numerous property transactions and things like that we have determined that the Dickens family owned the property when people started getting buried there. And we think there's maybe 10 graves. That's one of those things. So we might get Northern involved again if we get permission from everybody in the world, because right now Northern I don't think wants to get involved unless they have a clear, clean slate that says we're allowed to be there. And I can understand that. We're kind of in that position. The folks that want the stones put back think we can work miracles in a short time. The folks that don't want the stones put back think we can work miracles in a short time, and they don't want that to happen. So we're kind of playing it by ear. The stones, at least, are not destroyed. They were carried about a mile from where they should be. But all things considered, at some point those stones will probably be back in proximity, and hopefully will do as good a job as they did at the St. Paul's Church.
Yeah, I got umpteen phone calls on a subdivision being built on the town there. The day they were digging with the backhoe, and the backhoe operator informed me that they had dug some stuff up. The other backhoe operator had quit because he wouldn't dig up a grave. So the guy building the subdivision just found somebody who would, and he continued on. It was either water or sewer line he was putting in at the time. So I've known about this for a long time, so it's been an ongoing issue for...
It's better than 20 years that subdivision has been there. And the state of Kentucky's got such a hodgepodge of rules about moving a cemetery. But they're pretty clear about a couple of things. You've got to get an undertaker involved. You've got to get permission from the zoning and planning people of who owns the property, in this case being the city of Alexandria. If it's rural, then it has to be the fiscal court's jurisdiction. I think some underhanded things happen. Let us stop right there.
Yes.
And that created more problems than what the guy thought he was. And, you know, he died in the middle of the process. He had a tractor accident out in Pendleton County. But there are people telling me, oh, yeah, he died in the cemetery. You know, that's a good story, too. That's like Headless Hattie.
No,
he did not. Okay, Jan, newsletter?
The newsletter is almost finished on my computer, and then I have to print it all out and get it all put together and sent out by the end of this month. I think it'll happen. It's going to have a lot of information about our 25th anniversary celebration, so please read carefully about the member dinner. We are sponsoring a member dinner, members only right now. If the place holds about 150 people, if we don't get that many reservations, we'll open it up to spouses or others who are not members, but they will have to pay. Members do not. It's going to be catered by Pompilius, but all the details will be in the newsletter. The day is shaping up. We've got commitments from all kinds of event activities, displays, events, and it's all going to be in the newsletter. So watch for that at the end of this month. I'll go on and we've got a couple correspondence things. Second Saturday genealogy in Frankfurt is this Saturday. Introduction to DNA, the ABCs of DNA. The presenter is Deborah Renard, who is a genealogist and speaker. So you can come look at that if you want to. They have it every second Saturday of every month It's always right after our meeting, so it's kind of not a lot of notice for you, but it's online. You can go to Kentucky Historical Society and look it up online ahead of time. These are for other people. I think that's all I've got.
Okay, very good. We don't have a report tonight on veterans records. The picture albums have been taken over by Steve, but he's working on several projects at the moment, so do we have a report?
Same as last month, only that I've kind of stopped the scanning right now, and I'm putting together the slideshow presentation that will run throughout the day at the 25th anniversary celebration.
Very good. History Day, I thought went well. Attendance was definitely down. We haven't had a follow-up meeting yet, so I'm not sure what the actual number was, but I was doing the opening in the big hall, and it obviously wasn't filled, which it usually is, so it's been down. We did sell $80 worth of books. We brought in 2 new members, and we sold $34 in postcards and photos. So I think it was a successful day. I think overall everything I saw went well and was well received. So hopefully it will continue like that.
Ken,
just one side.
I
Yes.
forgot. I'm going to run to my car. I have those note cards that you just mentioned. We're selling note cards in order to help our expenses for our celebration, and we'll sell them into the future too. They're pictures of historic Campbell County sites. We're selling them for $3 a piece. Pam Casebolt made a generous donation to get them printed up. A photographer took the pictures. I'm going to go out now and get them and bring them in. You can purchase them tonight or just look at them in future reference.
And Ken, I'm going to add this. While you were at the presentation, I was still filming and interviewing people who were displayed. There were a lot more people still in there. And I thought, well, how come they aren't going to hear about Covington? But that might be why it was down in there. There was probably, 65 or 70 people still milling around the room.
I had asked the history volunteers to go around to each table and please ask everybody except one person to leave and come in.
Yeah.
We'd like to fill the room up, but that doesn't always happen. So. And just a side note, as with everybody's budgets, Northern's budget's been drastically cut for this year and next year. They have to make some cuts. Part of it is going to be some slight increases to us who are going to be using their rooms, the food, parking. So there's going to have to be increases next year. We're not talking drastic increases, not $100 or nothing like that. But you might see several dollars worth of increases here and there to help pay for the day, because that's the only way we can make this happen. The first several years we did this, we lost money, and we ended up taking it out of our treasury. The first 5 years, it lost money all 5 years. We took money out to pay for it. We don't want to do that anymore. We want to at least break even. So that we're going to probably raise the fees a little bit next year. Let's see. We have an Evergreen Cemetery report, Jan.
The next meeting is on April the 23rd at 7 o'clock. And I will be attending the Friends of Linden Grove meeting on April 16th to see how they do things. Elaine Kuhn was interested in working with the records and getting them scanned. They're also going to be paying attention to the front office building, the chapel, and the mausoleum. They're going to be doing some landscaping around there. So the next meeting is April the 23rd at 7 o'clock, and usually we meet at the Fort Thomas Library, so anyone is welcome.
Very good, thank you. Yep.
And it'll be starting out at 10 o'clock in the morning at 3rd and Main. 3rd and Main, that's where we'll be. So you almost have to get there a little earlier. Jeff has already committed, he's going to walk also, I'm going to be there. So anybody else interested, just meet us at 3rd and Main about 9:30 or something like that. You may have to park a block or 2 or 3 away unless you get there awfully early, because they seem to shut the streets down way too early. But you can find back ways to get in, especially if you come in number 8, you can usually find a parking space.
Have someone drop you off?
Yeah, or have somebody drop you off, especially in a car, maybe that had a convertible top and we won't be walking. Secondly, the Alexander VFW parade is actually the day before that. It'll be on Sunday, and I think it's at 1 o'clock, assembling at the north parking lot of, the south parking lot of the Campbell County Middle School. And that's the only ones that we're scheduled to be at now. We've got other information and feelers out, and I think at some point the Camp Springs Parade would be something that we need to get involved in. Unfortunately, it's usually on the same day as the Dayton Bellevue Parade that we've been doing for about 15 years or 14 years, something like that. But there's a lot of folks in here that probably know about Camp Springs, and they would be glad to walk. It's not a very, if it ain't raining, it's a wonderful day. If it's raining, nobody walks, so we'll go for that. That's about the extent of parades that's happening. I encourage everybody who would be interested. If somebody cannot physically walk that, I'll make some arrangement to have a car or something like that. We'll go from there.
Very good, thank you. May, we're going to go visit First 12 Mile Baptist Church on Oleonta Road for a talk and tour of that old church. June 11th, we will not have a meeting. We're canceling it because we're going to have a big to-do on the 27th, which is the fairgrounds. July the 9th, we're going to visit the Pendleton County Historical Society's stone building on US 27. It's right in Butler as you come down 27. It's on the left-hand side, it's a big stone building there. That's their headquarters, their library now. July the 18th is the Backroads Farm Tour. On August 13th, we're going to go down to Newport, to the Taylor Mansion, and Russ Thomas, part of the Gerner and Kearns lawyer firm, is going to give us a talk on James Taylor. September the 10th, we'll be here. That's when we're going to have our essay readers read their essays, the ones that haven't already. And Tom Seither is going to come talk to us about his 6 Civil War ancestors, all fought in the Civil War. 3 were North, 3 were South. So he's got a very interesting story about that. October the 8th is here, but we don't have a topic yet. We're still working on that one. November 12th is here. Don Colesman's coming to talk to us about researching our German ancestors. And then December the 10th, we'll be here. That's our holiday social evening, and the Hills of Kentucky Dulcimers will come play for us. Does anybody else have anything new or old to talk about this evening? Okay.
The note cards are here.
All right,
People
note
wanna
cards
look
here.
at
If you
them.
want to see the note cards, please do it. Thank you. Have a safe trip home.